Nearly a century after their release, old Hollywood classics like Dracula and Frankenstein still persevere, and these classics were made more popular by the actors who played the titular monsters. Bela Lugosi played Dracula, while Boris Karloff played Frankenstein's monster. The two actors appeared together in a few films, and it's often rumored they didn't get along. Join Facts First as we explore the truth about the Dracula and Frankenstein feud that old Hollywood lied about.
Thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. More about them later.
When one thinks of famous depictions of monsters, Bela Lugosi's Dracula and Boris Karloff's take on Frankenstein's monster are likely two of the first to come to mind. They were two of the most iconic horror stars of Hollywood's golden age, though film fans at the time were led to believe the two didn't get along. For decades, fans have debated whether or not Bela and Boris legitimately hated each other. The theory was plastered all over tabloid publications back in the day. The gossip helped draw attention to the stars, which in turn helped sell tickets. According to the majority of film historians, the supposed feud that occurred was a complete fabrication. Most seem to believe that Universal Pictures came up with the feud out of the blue to get press for their new horror films. And it certainly worked. However, if Universal Pictures was really lying about how the two performers felt about each other, it's left a lasting impact. By most accounts, the two got along perfectly well. Some even suggest that they related to each other to a considerable degree, as both stars had come to Hollywood from overseas and felt largely like aliens in the industry. This made them a perfect choice to play their respective iconic on-screen monsters. Before receiving these roles, both performers struggled and faced adversity. Both stars were also in their 40s before they achieved fame. Bela Lugosi was chased out of Hungary. Bela Lugosi was born in 1882. At the time of his birth, the region he was born in was part of Hungary, but in the years since, the land has become part of Romania. When Bela was 12, he ran away from home in the hopes of becoming an actor. After years of struggling, Bela eventually managed to find some modicum of success on the stage in Hungary. But in the meantime, the young runaway was forced to pay his way working menial jobs. Bela took a break from the life of an actor to join World War I, and he saw a good deal of combat. Legend has it that the future star was wounded 3 separate times. Though this led to him being decorated as an officer, it also led to him developing a lifelong battle with substance abuse. In 1920, Bela decided it was time to travel to the US. There were several reasons. For one thing, America was where the action was. For another, the actor had stirred up some trouble within the entertainment industry of his home country after taking steps to try to set up an actors' union. Bela persevered in New York. The actor took up living in New York City, the idea being he might be able to make it on the New York City Broadway stage. Though Bela knew very little English at the time, he managed to scrape by and pick up what he could. After a few years of living in a predominantly Hungarian part of the city, Bela was well on his way to become an honorary American. Bela's breakout role came in the way of a 1927 Broadway play, Dracula. Before we tell you more about it, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already.
With inflation and the increasing cost of living, it's difficult to stay on budget to save for retirement. Having some extra guidance with budgets can help, and that's where Rocket Money comes in. Rocket Money is an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. The Personal Finance Manager allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, monitor your credit score, and build your savings all in one place. Rocket Money can see if you have recurring charges for subscriptions you forgot about. From there, they cancel unwanted subscriptions for you with just a tap. You never have to get on the phone or try to hunt down the cancel button. Inside the platform, you can set budgets and monitor your spending for those categories. If you go over budget, you'll get friendly notifications that help you stay on track. You can also monitor your credit score. With complete access to your credit reports and history, Rocket Money alerts you of important changes that impact your score and offers you insights on ways to improve it. Rocket Money is trusted by 3.4 million members and counting. To try it out for free today and unlock more features with premium, head to rocketmoney.com/factsfirst or click the link in the video description.
Bela first played the role of Dracula on stage. When Bela Lugosi ran away from home at age 12, he had it in the back of his head that he'd be a star. In 1927, after living in New York for a handful of years, working his way up in the theater scene, he finally managed to secure a notable role. He was cast to play the titular lead in the Broadway play Dracula. With his Hungarian accent, Bela proved the perfect performer for it. The play was a big hit, and people loved Bela's performance, but an even bigger opportunity awaited him. Motion pictures during that time were turning into what would be known as talkies. That meant spoken dialogue was beginning to be incorporated. Tasked with coming up with good ideas for films that would utilize spoken dialogue, Universal Pictures eventually turned their sights on the hit Broadway play Dracula. The studio decided it wanted to bring the play to the big screen, and this meant it was time for Bela to find his place in cinema. The film turned Bela into a household name, which was a long time coming given the fact that he was 47 when it came out. Boris Karloff's early life mirrored Bela's. Dracula was an enormous success for Universal, but it wasn't the only notable horror film the studio released that year. 1931 also saw the release of Frankenstein, with Boris Karloff in the role of Frankenstein's monster. With these two successes, the classic age of Hollywood horror was born. Boris was born in London, but his mixed heritage made him stand out. Boris's father had been a diplomat, and he had met Boris's mother while traveling in India. This meant Boris was partly Indian, which gave him a unique physicality that helped him a good deal during his career. It was initially his intention to pursue a higher education and become a diplomat. However, the young man had been drawn to performing from a young age. Eventually, it was his love for performing that won out. According to the late Boris Karloff himself, his first taste of performing came at age 9, when he was cast to play a villainous role in a play based on Cinderella. Young Boris had a ton of fun playing the role, and the experience stuck with him. Because of this, the role of Frankenstein's monster proved a perfect fit for the man, whereas many other actors would balk at playing a monster, especially if it meant working underneath several pounds of makeup. Famously, it's been said that Bela Lugosi was offered the role of Frankenstein's monster first, but turned it down because of the makeup. The role was offered to Boris, who had no reservations. Did Bela and Boris really feud? After deciding to try his hand at acting, the of-age Boris Karloff headed to Canada in 1909. Later, he ended up in Hollywood. It took him over a decade to find the attention he craved. Boris's early work saw him performing as an extra, and by the time he received his breakout role in 1931, he was ready. Universal Pictures spread the rumors that Bela and Boris despised each other to help sell tickets to their features, but it seems the two performers related to each other a great deal. They appeared together in a variety of movies for Universal, and it appears they got along just fine. The two are often credited with helping bring about the Screen Actors Guild in 1933, calling back to the time Bela was chased out of Hungary for similar reasons. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know that Boris and Bela were both in their 40s before they got their big Hollywood break? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined Facts First as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of Facts First, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history. Plus, you can enjoy these videos completely ad-free. Our biggest fans will notice they also get badges next to their name when they leave comments on our videos. We pay special attention to comments from our members, and so do other viewers. So if you want exclusive content from Facts First or inside access to discussions with other community members, click the join button to get started for just $4.99. There are hours of members-only videos waiting for you, with new videos added every month. And we're actively working on bringing even more features to help fans like you connect with other members and get more of your favorite content. Just click join, and we'll see you inside the membership tab.